Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chelsea Roar, a brand new Chelsea football show for the fans, by the fans. My name is Ian the Dynamo Kelly. I am joined by my trusted co-host, Alex Byrne. And guess what? This is another show brought to you by the Dynamo Podcast Network, exclusively on YouTube. This won't be available on any Spotify or anything yet. This is just going to be a show watching myself and himself talk everything Chelsea, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is our debut show. And what timing for a debut show? Because, Alex, why don't you tell these lovely people that are tuning in right now what we have in store for them today?
Well, what we have in store is it's episode one, but talk about starting on the top. We're going to do a quick season review, talk about everything that's happened, but we're going to get down to the meat of the matter then and talk about the biggest game we have had in 9 years. It is, of course, the Champions League final. What a way to start. Start out on the top. We are going to do a preview for the Champions League final and talk about how we think we're going to beat City.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it was a good idea. You kind of come up with that concept that we should maybe save the best for last. So, why don't we? I suppose just to give people an idea of what our thinking behind this was. It's very rare you'll see people start a show in the off season, but there's lots of great YouTube content out there, and shout out to all the guys and girls that do Chelsea content on YouTube. Shout out to Yannick, shout out to Eunice, shout out to Alex Goldberg, shout out to pretty much everybody. And of course, yes, guys, we know exactly what we're talking about. So we decided that we would throw our chips in the basket too, because there's actually not enough of these shows from a Chelsea perspective, in my opinion, as well. I mean, there's plenty out there, but some of it's good, some of it's probably not great. We're going to throw our chips on the table and see what we can come up with. And going forward, we're going to have a weekly show.
Yeah, we are. And especially, we got to represent Chelsea here in Ireland. You were the same as me in school. It was all about your Chelsea and your Liverpool. So
yes, sir.
Very, very rare to find Chelsea fans in this country.
Yeah, they're cropping up, but it's some of them are probably, and this is not a slight on anybody. We love all Chelsea and all Chelsea fans, but some of them are probably a little bit younger than us as well. And probably remember seeing tapes and stuff that their dads or their parents or their uncles, whoever it may be, that has shown them back in the day. I am lucky enough to have at the grown up in the to have grown up in at the very, very start of the sexy football times with one Dutch legend, Mr. Ruud Gullit. So and thank you very much to Glenn Hoddle for making that happen. Even though he doesn't love us that much these days on commentary. Yeah, they all change.
It is, but at least now you see on the subject of, representing Chelsea, it's nice to see now in the media, which wasn't always the case for us. Like, you do have Chelsea boys in the media now. You got Ashley Cole, you got Joe Cole, you had Lampard before.
Jimmy
so it's
Floyd.
Nice to see the guys getting both sides of it. Like, Jimmy Floyd, there you go. So, and Ruud Gullit as well. So it's nice to hear it from the other side too, because usually it was always United and Liverpool players. So it's good to get a mix.
Yeah, it is. And obviously we are very honest football fans as well. So this is gonna be blue tinted glasses. We're gonna call out stuff as we see it also. And I think that's probably the best way to start today. Let's kind of do. We're probably going to spend maybe 25 to 30 minutes talking about just the season that has passed. Obviously, we go into the season full of hope off the back of getting top four last year with Frank Lampard and the young players that done an absolutely amazing job. And Alex, take it away, Alex.
Yeah, I suppose it was a strange season because, the 1920 season was Frank's first season. We had a transfer ban, so there was no kind of expectation going in. It was, look, give Lampard the job, see how he does. And he got top four and got to the FA Cup final. So the only thing was that it was a great season from a first season point of view for Frank, but it was almost kind of he backed himself into a corner. Like, we went out and spent 220 million on new players in the summer. So when you have that and you finish top four, I remember saying at the start of the season, he has to do better or else it's going to be seen as, well, this hasn't worked out type of thing. So the pressure was on for the second season. I think we saw that because, we had a little bit of a bumpy start. Then we kind of hit full gear, but then all of a sudden it just kind of capitulated. But I mean, like the first kind of few games, like we beat Brighton in the first game, of course, and we looked good enough on the night, but we lost 2-0 to Liverpool, and we had a man, Christensen was sent off. We lost 2-0 to Liverpool, but you had everybody and their mothers going, Chelsea, they're not up to it, they're not this. I'm like, lads, we lost 2-0 home to the champions with 10 men. Relax.
Yeah, and I think as we go into the season, like, because we're not gonna do a game by game review,
yes,
more so an overlook. And I think one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that this was, there was 3 brand new players, well, 4 obviously coming into the club. Thiago Silva, you knew would just mesh right in, and mesh right in he did. But you knew it was going to take time for Timo, Koi, and Hakim to settle in, and Hakim obviously gets injured early in the season.
In the pre-season game against Brighton, I think he had the shin injury, and then of course you had Kai had a very kind of stop and start to his Chelsea career, because he came in, he played the first couple of games, scored a hat-trick in the League Cup, but then he was injured, he had COVID, was out for a couple of months.
Yeah, and it seems like when you listen to a certain fan base, Liverpool fans, that they're the only team that, like, no other team in the world could have come through what they came through and got top 4 because of personal reasons, the usual stuff. And obviously there was some sad personal reasons with, Jurgen Klopp and certain sad things that happen, but bringing fans, passing and stuff like that, and it's like, they always try to make it so like as if these players are actually clued into the local scene, like it's 1970 again. It's not. Sorry, but yeah, and that's just the way of the world. You know what I mean? These lads are mercenaries, i.e., anyone that's left Liverpool. I see Gigi Wijnaldum has left today, and they're going crazy because he's actually signed for less money to Barcelona. And they're saying, well, why would you sign for Barcelona for less money when we're offering you more? And I was a bigger club. And they're actually questioning that Barcelona aren't a bigger club. And it's just, that's my shot at the Liverpool fans that are on the upper tier, and I hope they come.
We'll have one per show, folks.
We'll have one per show. Yeah, we're here all day. So the upper tier boys, now it's time to step up and
absolutely
come at us.
I suppose in terms of the season, then, like, I mean, we kind of moved on from that because there was a point, like, for that first, I suppose, third of the season where, like, we were top of the league, we were flying. I think there was what is it? We went on like a 2 or 3 month period where we just didn't lose a game. We were sitting there going like, Jesus, this is working out. I think we beat Leeds. I think it was 3-1 at the Bridge that got top of the league. We were all sitting, and it was December times. We were all sitting there going, December top of the league, like, this is going according to the plan. Little did we know we were about to.
Yeah, and it all came back once again. I mean, like, Frank Lampard's fatal mistake really was, in my opinion, from a behind the scenes point of view, was just he didn't sort his coaching out. You know what I mean? He really did not. We knew from the previous season, last season, that the defensive coaching aspect needed to be sorted out ASAP.
Yes.
And whether that was going out and getting John Terry in as a dual assistant with Jody Morris, who him and Jody are literally best friends anyway. I mean, I think John would have taken that, no problem. You know what I mean? Or maybe John is happy. I think John started in management the right way, going in as an assistant, and he's learning. He's at a great team now. And you look at the work he's doing now. When you look at Villa's defense, absolutely phenomenal job that he's doing there with the whole Villa crew. I always have a soft spot for Villa. I have no issue with Villa. So, but I mean, it was one thing that that Frank didn't address. You know what I mean? And thinking that you're going to bring Thiago Silva on, and that's going to be the solution to all your problems. Dropping Rudiger, Zuma's your boy, and Christensen, and you're kind of going with the back 4. I know you said early on the upper tier as well, which I agreed with on I think your first appearance on the upper tier. You mentioned that Chelsea are always better with a 3 at the back, and it proved it last season, didn't it? When Jody Morris had brought in, and you knew that was Jody's call, bringing the suggesting the 3 at the back when we absolutely destroyed Wolves with that absolute worldie from Tomori.
And like when we got to like the business end of the season too, like I remember 2 games in particular when we beat Spurs at the Bridge in Frank's first season, and we beat United in the FA Cup semi-final. Like, I think we were playing back threes both those games, but
Yes.
it's just one of those. Like, it's ever since Conte was in, we seem a bit more comfortable with it. And I think you mentioned Rudiger there. I think another big fatal mistake for Frank was he fell out with the wrong players, because we've seen,
Yes.
especially in these last couple of months, Rudiger is such a huge
He's a
personality.
leader. I mean,
Yes.
Rudiger should be the Chelsea captain. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it there, and I think a decision needs to be made next year. And I think I don't even think Azpilicueta, as much as I love him, could argue that Rudiger should be Chelsea captain. He's younger. He is Marcel Desailly reincarnated at the moment, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt. He is the new Rock. But I think you're right, and I think we're both in agreement there. And I think Frank was guilty of a little bit of that Villas-Boas stuff that he hated back when it happened to him. So I was actually very, very disappointed in Frank to kind of treat players that way. Do you know what I mean? It was, and I don't know whether, I don't think it was more so that it was showing how big a certain part of his anatomy was that he was doing that. Because I think that's what Villas-Boas was doing, trying to come in and command respect and go, look, I might be younger than all you guys, but I'm here to lay down the law. I think Frank done it in a way, though, that wasn't too dissimilar, but like, well, I'm the boss. You're not playing. And yeah, it really rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way, didn't it?
It did. Like, I know, especially one I saw as well was, you mentioned him there with a wonder goal for Kaya Tomori. When he went out on loan to Milan back in January, he basically said as well, like, that I was dropped for no reason, because I thought Tomori was fantastic in Frank's first season. But he wasn't playing this season, and Frank really didn't give him an explanation. Like, he just kept saying, you need to train hard. He said, and I was training hard and training hard, wasn't getting played, and I was training hard. And then eventually he just says, right, well, I'm off. I'm not dealing with this. And he's been outstanding for Milan. So
it's a loss for us, isn't it? It's going to be.
It is. And like, as much as I love Frank, like, I mean, you see the poster there. I got that at the Bridge in his first season.
Listen, he's super Frank to me always.
Of course, but yeah, I think it was a case of similar to Villas-Boas. He tried to, I suppose, really be like, I'm the boss, I'm in charge type of thing. But you got to be fair. It worked for the like of a Sir Alex. He knew when to pick his battles.
Yes, very shrewd. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think
we also saw, like, I mean, that can blow up in someone's face. We thought, like, we'll go back before the likes of Antonio Conte. Everything goes swimmingly, then he kicks Costa out over text, and all of a sudden, like, you have to be very careful what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's true. Like, I mean, when we look at Frank as well, when you think about it, for me personally anyway, it's like he didn't know what to do with the new toys that he got as well. Like, I mean, Timo, listen, Timo was getting slated, flop of the season, all this kind of stuff. But we got to remember, Timo was brought in a COVID year with very little preseason. In fact, next to none. And he used him out on the wing because his love-in with Tammy Abraham was there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I'm going to call it out. I am not going to be one of these Chelsea fans that is sad to see Tammy Abraham go, because I don't like Tammy Abraham's attitude that he saw Hudson-Odoi get a certain amount of money and wanted that amount of money. Now, I can also see his point of view. He's done more technically on the pitch than Hudson-Odoi has. But there's a bit of an age gap there, but it hasn't been consistent. He was top scorer in the Premier League last year up until a point, and then done absolutely nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you look at the difference in attitude between two players, so I'll use a couple of examples.
Yeah.
When we signed the likes of a Havertz or something like that, I know for a fact Mason Mount apparently looked at Havertz coming in, and his attitude was, okay, I'm going to train harder. I'm going to push myself harder. Apparently, when we signed the Werner, Tammy Abraham's attitude was, oh, well, you still have to play me, though. I want assurances that I'm going to play. That's the difference. Because for me, Mason Mount, well-deserved player of the season this year.
Exactly. Mason Mount done exactly what Lampard did when the likes of Ballack were signed. You know what I mean? He was like, well, you're going to have to find a role for Ballack because I'm still going to be the first name on the team sheet. And he was. So that's a great point, Alex, actually. That's a great point.
I was going to say, I'm going to do a hell of a transition. And speaking of Frank Lampard being replaced by a German, there you go. There's your transition right there.
Hey, there you go. I didn't even think of that one. I didn't even think of that one. It's true though. Havertz has come in as well. Didn't come in with an ego. Obviously a big price tag, but no ego. Absolutely, I think you can see he's fallen in love with the club, with the culture.
Yes.
I think Timo has as well. Um,
I
they're
did
here
love
to
when we
stay.
had the fans in against Leicester. I did love we had 90 minutes of Timo chance. I like that.
I absolutely loved it, man. And you can see the kid just continuously tries. I mean, the head doesn't go down. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that he doesn't bounce back next season. And I mean, I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are going to be really in for a shock because
And
when that ball starts dropping, like they are going in the back of the net, and it's just a natural thing to happen as a footballer.
yeah.
He doesn't shy away. Like I played striker myself, and it's very very easy to obviously on a much smaller level, but when we all played schoolboy football, it's very easy to kind of feel lonely up there. You can be as lonely as a goalkeeper can be. It's weird. It's the two, the top to the end of the pitch. And I think Lamps didn't do a lot for Timo's confidence at all by playing him on the wing. Then sometimes playing him
Yeah.
striker. It's like, what is my position here? You're at the paying 50 million for me, and what am I like? I'm meant to be like, give me a definitive role.
And those couple of games, because there was a few games that he played in the middle under Frank Lampard, he scored
Yeah,
a bucket of goals. Like he was scoring 2 or 3 goals a game. You're sitting there
yeah.
going, all right, this fella's a good striker. But
And then he
then,
put him on the wing again.
yeah, there you go. As soon as Abraham was fit, right, you're back out there. And I think even Timo said it himself. Like, he said after the Leicester game, it's been the unluckiest season of his life. Because, I mean, he's scored,
Yes.
I think, 15 goals disallowed and he's hit the post 5 times.
It's crazy. More than
It's insane.
five,
Like,
man. I think it's more.
all of a sudden, you're a 30-plus goal a season striker.
Yeah, it's absolutely mental. But look, we won't spend too much time on individual players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea, we were crocked with injuries as well. Like, I'm sorry, cry me a Liverpool. Cry me a Liverpool, actually. Cry me a Liverpool. There we go. There's a new one.
There you go. Cry me a Liverpool.
That was a slip of the tongue, but it was actually meant to be. Like, oh, well, Van Dijk was out. This guy was out. That guy was out. This lad had COVID. That lad had COVID. Thiago Silva, Thiago just needs time to fit in. Coming from Bayern Munich as a world-class player, he needs time to fit in, but Liverpool fans are calling Timo a flop.
I know. But look, speaking of flopping, because like after that, belter of a start we made to the season from December up until the end of January, it was just hell. I mean, we went from first of the table down to bloody 10th.
Yes, it was absolutely crazy. I mean, and look, when we go back to that time, and by the way, Liverpool fans, I'm just teasing, but I got the bait. They know me too well. I agree. Like it was the. I mean, we text, I think, at the time, and I said to you, I was like, look, dude, the writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
I do believe as well that I was the only one out of all the Chelsea fans that I know that was actually like advocating Tuchel, because I know a lot of people were kind of afraid of the idea of Tuchel because the media portrayed it, to be fair, that he doesn't fit in with boards that don't go along with his narrative and stuff like that. And you think automatically it's the right thing to think. Our board versus someone, you're thinking Antonio Conte, right?
Yes. But if I could just interject for 1 second, because a very good friend of mine, a guy called Kieran, who I've been friends with for quite a few years now.
He was actually,
there you go, Kieran. There you go. But he was quite actually an advocate for wanting Frank out. He wasn't happy again with the defensive style, the goals we were conceding. And as soon as he went, the first name he said is, he says, we need to get Tuchel in.
You told me that,
I was one. I said, I'm not 100% sure of this. And Kieran said, no. He says, trust me. He says, this guy is a genius. He is exactly what we need at this club. Because I was thinking, oh, God, if only we could have gotten Pochettino or something. He was like, no. Tuchel is exactly what this club need. And I always say to him, whenever I talk to Kieran about Chelsea, I'm like, you were spot on.
Yeah. And it's funny because certain mates of mine, because we'd obviously only start talking around that time.
Yes.
And certain friends of mine had said the same thing to me. Shout out to a guy on the network, Carl King. Whoa. He's like, yep. He goes, you were right with Tuchel. I just saw Tuchel he is a professor. Like he's very, very similar to Klopp. And Klopp is someone that I respect the hell out of.
Yeah.
as a manager, and absolutely, I'm teasing here. Like a lot of bad stuff did happen with with Liverpool, his man passing and all, not being able to see the
And
family.
Alison's
So
dad as well.
yeah. I mean, that's absolutely horrible.
It
Alice's
was.
dad as well. So I do. We certainly do hear from the Chelsea Roar. Wish our condolences and definitely our sympathies with anything like that. So, you
Of
have
course, and
our
fair
respect for
play
that.
to them. Fair
Yeah.
play to them getting top four as well. Because
Yeah,
like I'll just talk about them for a sec because it was a horrible thing. Like I know we go on about VAR and how horrible it is. If you look
they
at Van
got
Dijk's
screwed with VAR this year.
they did, but I
Got
think the
screwed.
biggest one for me is if you look at Van Dijk's injury. It was a collision with the goalkeeper. Then they were like, "Oh, by the way, that was offside." If he flags offside straight away, like he's supposed to,
Yeah,
he doesn't get injured.
yeah,
But that's not enough Liverpool for that because
yeah.
look,
That's
Tuchel
it.
come
That's
in
all we're
and
giving you. That's all we're giving you.
Tuchel come in and like Frank was sacked on the Monday. Tuchel was in by the Tuesday. So I
Yes.
mean, we were fortunate that we were able to get a coach of that caliber straight away and get him in for free because he'd been
He
sacked by
trained.
PSG.
He trained that evening, and
Yeah,
literally wrote out what he thought was going to be his team. And I mean, the most refreshing manager I think we've had in Chelsea for a long, long time, with absolute honesty, in
yeah,
terms of how he sees the game. I mean, Conte, you could argue, was probably of the same ilk.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say Conte was probably of the same ilk, but I mean, more so, Conte was a very fiery character. um,
We
we
saw
haven't,
it today as well. We saw that
yeah,
today with Inter Milan.
yeah, we haven't seen that, obviously, that, which we'll get on to later, because that's good news for Chelsea with a certain centre forward playing for Inter Milan.
Absolutely.
Fabrizio Romano basically said that. I believe he said on, I'm not sure whose podcast it was. Oh, George Benson. Shout out to
There
George
you go.
Benson. So we will credit you for this information. I think Fabrizio Romano said that that move with Lukaku will depend on what happens with Conte, and he said he thinks if Conte goes, then that is pretty much nailed on to happen. So we'll see how that transpires, and that will be in future episodes. But just a nice little taster for Chelsea fans out there that might be thinking what centre forward we're going to end up with.
Absolutely.
Some think it might have been old Harry setting his future club up there for top four at the weekend.
Well, he'll come in as a bit of a cult hero already after that game of the week.
Yeah. I mean, what a way to start your Chelsea career if you want to do that, right?
Exactly. But speaking of incredible starts of Chelsea careers, though, man, like when Tuchel came in, all of a sudden it was just
Yeah.
boom, switch was just flipped, and like I couldn't believe, because I was sitting there going, okay, we'll see what happens. Because I mean, you were like me. We were talking at the time. We were like, look, top four is a write off. We're 10th. No way.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
impossible. But when he come in, just all of a sudden, I sat there and was like, we're actually a good team. And like his first team, like he saw Alonso back in the team. He saw the likes of Rudiger back in the team. He was like, no, it's a clean slate. You're all going to come into the team.
Aspi
like
dropped into that fucking position that he thrives in. Yeah.
Yeah, right wing, right centre back. Because I always remember he played there under Conte. When he came back out, he was those couple of years older, and I remember always saying he's a right centre back now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I mean, just from there, we just went on a tear. Like in the Premier League and in the Champions League as well. Like there was this ridiculous record that he'd beaten, like Simeone, he'd beaten Ancelotti, he'd beaten Klopp, he'd beaten, I can't think of who else. He'd beaten Guardiola, and like he hadn't conceded a goal in most of those games. He conceded two, and Zidane, and he conceded 2 goals over the course of those games. And you're sitting there going, this is ridiculous. What's happened? And all of a sudden, from a team that we were criticizing the defensive coaching from Frank's team, all of a sudden, the most watertight defense you've ever seen.
Best defensive record in Europe, I do believe, or one of them in that.
There you go.
In that few guys in the time that he's been there. And I think we'd be remiss without saying, with a season review, that and again, listen, Frank Lampard, I love you. This will come in time for Frank, and hopefully we'll see him back one day in this kind of with this attitude. I think we're closer to seeing a John Terry return over the next decade, 15 years, than a Frank one, personally, depending on what way Frank's next move goes. I'd be an advocate for Frank to go down to Scotland and manage Celtic, personally, with that rivalry with Gerrard. I think it would do him the world of good. Still a huge club, but rebuilding the team in his own identity, I think that would be perfect for him. Stay away from
Brendan
Palace.
Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly. Stay away from Palace. Look at Brendan Rodgers. Exactly. That's a great point, Alex. But I think we'd be remiss, to say, like, when you look at the levels of coaching, forget about just team performance. Let's look at
Yeah.
it on an individual basis on what players have actually improved in this short space of time under Tuchel. For
Yeah.
me, Mendy was already a good goalkeeper. I think he's an even better goalkeeper now.
I would agree.
Antonio Rudiger, like I said, he has transformed into Marcel Desailly. I mean, the lad was
Yeah.
doing Zidane skills against Leicester.
I saw that when he went on his run. See, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, quite rightly, like Ruben Diaz won Player of the Season and talk about Van Dijk and stuff. But for
I
me,
agree. Yeah,
looking at Rudiger since Tuchel's come in, I'm sitting going, what more could you want in a
he's
centre
player
back?
of the half season for sure.
He is like he's unbelievably calm in defence. He can keep the head, he can clear the ball. He runs the pitch with the ball, as you say, and doing roulette
How
stuff.
has that lad come back from hammies? And his pace is at a ridiculous level. Again, it's the Germans with their sports science, man. It's absolutely a beautiful thing.
And as you said, with leadership, we saw it against the likes of Atletico. We saw it against the likes of Real. We saw it most recently against Leicester. He takes no shit from anybody.
No. My missus, she's starting to get into Chelsea now properly 6 years later, right? But I think she sees like the passion that me and my family have for it too, especially when we're all together, and she's starting to kind of get into it. And she looked at Tuchel for the first time. She was like, "That's your new manager, is it?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I know he's not as good looking as Frank. It's all right. Come on, it's not about looks now." But she actually said it. She goes, "He looks like a scary German, that probably could have been part of a certain German army back in the day."
He looks like a Bond villain.
Oh, he looks like, I mean, Jesus, he could have been in Inglourious Bastards, like with one of the leather jackets, and be like, "Yeah, here to take you."
No, I love him though. But if you see him like in his presses and stuff, though, what always amazes me in press conferences, he's such a witty man. He's such like a
very, very
man.
intelligent, very likable as well. He's got a charm about him, hasn't he?
He does. Like, I mean, one of my favorite things was one of his first games when we played Spurs away. They were asking him all these questions about Spurs and Mourinho and this and that and blah 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 and all the different things. And his response was, look, he says, "I think you're in the wrong press conference. I'm the Chelsea manager."
And he always has that little like kind of boyish laugh and grin about him as well.
Yeah,
like, he's very he's kind of like, he's got a real kind of high pitched voice, but like he's soft spoken at the same time. It's very weird dynamic that he has going on. But
and one big thing for me as well, which was a change dynamic. I'll get back to, you mentioned Conte as well, because this was important. You remember Conte in the touchline, running up and down, kicking every ball with the players, the passion, yeah. But the thing is, though, as much as I love him, whenever it cut to Frank on the sideline, you saw this.
That used to really piss my dad off.
Yes,
big time.
Me too.
Because and for me, I'm gonna be honest, it didn't bother me as much. But then when we were losing, and starting to lose a lot more, then I could see, like, say what your point is now, because I know you mentioned it to me recently, just around that time as well, and I was kind of going, they're actually right. Like, you and my dad, these are actually right. It was like, I need to see that passion in the manager going, like, what the fuck? Like, I'm calling you out. I did see that with
Tuchel. You see with Tuchel, like, you see if a player misplaces a pass, you see him like, the hell are you doing?
Yeah, he's shouting at them. And you can hear him shouting at them, like, just going, what are you doing?
He's like, what's going on? He's looking at them like...
Or even when they miss a sitter, see when like Timo misses a sitter, something, like he's, it's like, how are you not doing that,
Exactly. And like, I mean, it's so like good to see, because I know myself, if I'm a player and I look over and I see my manager just like that, it's like, well, I'll just do it myself then, I guess. Whereas I look over and if I misplace a pass and my manager's like, pass to your teammate, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, okay, right, sorry.
Well, a certain energy breeds a certain energy, right? You know what I mean? If you're not getting called out on it, you're going, what's, like, I mean, Jody Morris was probably more animated than Frank. And I know it sounds we're ribbing on Frank, and there's going to be a lot of Chelsea fans here that are going, what are these two boys shiting about? But no, trust us, you're looking at two of the biggest Frank Lampard fans ever.
Yeah, and credit to Frank for laying the foundation for what we have now.
And that credit goes without saying. But at the same time, we did mention at the top of this show that we are going to be openly honest about it, regardless of whether it's one of our favorite players or not. I think going back to the point that we talked about with players that have improved. I think Azpilicueta is one of those again. I think he's even,
Yeah.
he's if he plays like this in that right centre back position, I don't know what Tuchel's been thinking with changing him and Reece around
Yeah.
recently. It's kind of annoyed me a little bit. Again,
Mm.
now I'm doing a Tuchel criticism, eh? Um,
There you
but
go.
but I don't see that. I seen the idea against Leicester purely because of the pace versus Jamie Vardy. But then I
Yeah.
didn't see the need for it in the last game against Villa. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, especially like I think Reece James is a more natural right back as well in the sense that he's
especially
going
in
to
the
get up
wing
and
back.
down.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, but if we're talking about improved players, like I never thought I would say this, but because he was already so good, he's made Kante reach a level I didn't even know Kante had.
And Kovacic.
And Kovacic as well. Like I mean, Jorginho was turned up for a few games as well, but like,
Well,
and even
Jorginho's been about 85% consistent
yes,
but the problem that we have with Jorginho is, and I think that everyone has, he suddenly, once he gets comfortable again, he thinks he knows best. And I think
yeah,
this is why you're seeing Jorginho come off early in games, because he resorts back to Sarri ball and thinks, and like, what fucking really annoys me about Jorginho is this: he'll lose the ball, and he cost us against Arsenal. I mean, look, we should
yeah.
have won that game, and we shouldn't have had to go to that final day of the season. To be honest with you, he shouldn't have played a game for the rest of the season after that because of.
Yeah, I think that kind of shows the mentality of the team because we made the Champions League final. We beat City away from home, which was incredible as well. But it just was almost like the players took their eyes off the prize after that.
Yeah, and I mean, Jorginho was meant to be one of those leaders. I mean, he was made
Yeah,
vice captain, under Lampard, and I think that's all going to change next year.
and
But
it kind of shows the immaturity of the team because there's a lot of young boys there, and like I mean, might as well go into it now because it was a great thing with Tuchel. We had an amazing run, but right toward the end of the season, we limped to that top four, and we were extremely lucky to get it.
yeah. Oh, look, it is a 38 game season. I mean, it didn't come down to that final day.
Mm.
Realistically, we put ourselves in a position, to be there. And yeah, Tottenham done us a favor, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we did put ourselves in that position under Tuchel, and I say under Tuchel, and the hard work Frank had done early in the
Yes.
season.
And this is the
So
one time you will see us on the show saying thank you, Tottenham.
oh yeah, it's the first and only time. It's the first and only time. We can guarantee you that. But like, unless they win to meet us in a final somewhere, and we know they'll bottle it, then we'll thank them.
Here you go.
But no, I think there was a couple of situations like Aspi dropped the ball, dropped his levels as well. I think, and that I do purely think though that was a positional thing. Can't ask
Yeah.
him to play on the wing and do that much running up and down the pitch. I don't think.
Yeah, and especially when Reece is so inexperienced at right centre back.
Yeah,
I gotta say, actually, sorry to go back to a point. Another player we have to give a shout out to very quickly in terms of significant improvement of the Tuchel has been Christensen as well.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. He was on my list anyway. He was definitely on my list. I mean, he's a different level of player under, without a shadow, And I mean, even when Zuma's come on, you see he's kind of ironed out some of the little mistakes he makes. But then he gets a little bit overconfident and thinks he's a baller. And it's like, calm down, Kurt. Calm down, my son. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you always just get kind of worried whenever he's on the ball. Like whenever he's in control, it's like, watching the bus turn, you're like, just
easy, Tiger. You're all right there. You're good at what you do. But he's.
But I suppose.
But I think Jorginho, though, just sticking with Jorginho for a minute. Look, I do think he's a quality player. I do. I'm not advocating selling him in the summer. I think he's a good player. I think that pivot of Kovacic and Jorginho has been phenomenal. Personally.
Yes.
I think it's been phenomenal. And those balls over the top that Jorginho was hitting in for Werner against Real Madrid and Pulisic were absolutely brilliant. And Jorginho's a different level of player when he's focused on the tactics at hand that Tuchel is putting out to him. But he then reverts. He has this weird thing where he gets comfortable, like I said, and reverts back to Sarri ball. But look, enough of this goddamn season review. We've got top four, but most importantly, let's finish off the show with
I was going to say, I know. I was going to say we had the Premier League season. It was good, but we got there in the end. But while all this was going on,
let's take a pause for the cause on this one, actually, because when we come back, Alex, tell them what we're going to be talking about.
It's are going to be talking. Thing. Yeah, we're going to be talking about a little run we've had to a little final of something called the Champions League.
It's right there, baby. It's right there.
There you go. Welcome back to part 2, folks. Part 1, we talked about our Premier League season. And part 2, we're going to talk about our Champions League season in the sense that, you and I, we've been watching Chelsea for a fair few years. And the Champions League, even when we've won it, it's been, scrape through the group stage. It's a bit of, we need to win in the last day of this. We win by the odd goal or the away goal in the knockout round. We get through and it's kind of, heart attack FC. We need to try and get there, praying we're getting on to the final. But this, for me anyway, in terms of reaching the final, is the only season I can remember where I look back at the group stage, I look back at the last 16, I look back at the quarterfinals and the semis, and I look and go, it was actually pretty straightforward. That was all right.
Well, we were dominant.
Yeah. I think we conceded 4 goals in the entire competition.
We are the most informed team, even more so than City, pretty much.
Yeah, I think we haven't lost. We lost 1 game, but that was the 1-0 against Porto, 93rd minute goal. We were 2-1 up from the away.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's strange because, we've sat there, gripping the edge of our seat, the odd goal, winning the semi-final, away goals against PSG in 2014. Yeah, even that one, 2-2 against Barcelona, the comeback against Napoli, penalties in the final. But this one was, made a show of Atletico in the last 16. Made pretty light work of Porto, and honestly, without meaning to sound too over the top, I don't think I'm going too over the top by saying should have scored about 8 or 9 goals against Madrid over 2 legs.
That's actually probably polite. You know what I mean? It was absolutely crazy. Our road to the final. I think finally you have a Champions League final where both teams, the 2 best teams in Europe,
yes,
are actually in the final.
Yeah, we have been the 2 best teams in the competition in the sense that, I remember when early in the competition we won 4-0 away to Sevilla, and I actually remember Rio Ferdinand in the studio at BT saying, lads, these can win the Champions League. I do not be surprised if Chelsea make this final.
I love Rio Ferdinand as a pundit, I have to say.
He's an undercover Chelsea fan.
He's so honest, man. So honest. Yeah, so honest.
But it's such a surreal kind of thing to say. Even then, it took a few days to hit me. I sat there and was like, we're in the Champions League final for the 3rd time in our history.
It's you know what it is, man? It's actually crazy. It's absolutely crazy. There's no way in hell I would have thought it would be this quick this year. No way.
Yeah.
And before Mourinho came, Chelsea were always known as a cup team. You know what I mean? We'd always we won the Cup Winners' Cup, we'd won a couple of League Cups, FA Cups. And 4-year period, won the FA Cup twice, which was pretty good for Chelsea, a team that was pretty much sitting around 6th, 7th, with the great players that we had. Shout out to George Weah in that 2000 Cup final. He came so close to scoring, but again, it was Robbie with the scrappy goal.
There you go.
Demo. And then Demo wins the one that we finally win, which is just probably one of my favorite. It is my favorite moment in Chelsea history, of course.
It is same, and it was one of those because I'll talk about that briefly. In a sense, that wasn't just people say, "Oh, that Champions League campaign." That wasn't just a Champions League campaign. That was 8 years of Champions League campaigns of almost winning that competition, finally coming through. And fun fact for all you Chelsea fans out there, I don't know if you're aware, probably you are, that was the last game where Cech, Terry, Lampard, and Drogba were all at the club at the same time.
Yep. It was because Cech was there and Terry was there the next season, but Drogba had left.
Yeah, and then when Drogba came back, Lampard had left.
Yes. Man, crazy, absolutely crazy, bringing out all the emotions again, and that's why I decided to wear this one
But even now, when I watch a video, Chelsea put up a video of highlights of that game, I still find myself watching it getting emotional.
I know you always tag me in it, and I'm in work, and I'm people are in work going, why are you crying? I'm not. You are.
But I just remember the way I described that night was it was almost when you've been shaking up a bottle of Coke for the last, what am I doing? When you've been shaking up a bottle of Coke for the last 8 years, all of a sudden, That's what it felt like, because it wasn't just a final. It was, the 2004 against Monaco, the 2005 against Liverpool, 2007 against Liverpool, 2008 against United, 2009 against Barcelona. It was all of that gone and erased in
culminating into one. Yeah. And then obviously the Napoli game was so pivotal. That
I remember that, man. I mean, we were dead and buried. I think that was the game that sealed Villas-Boas' fate, because I think he dropped Lampard, he dropped Terry, he dropped Drogba. Yeah. I think he played Ashley Cole, because I remember Ashley Cole cleared the ball off the line late in the game. That kept us in the tournament.
Who was that, like, small, stocky Argentine that scored, put us to the sword in that first leg as well?
Oh, God,
Lavezzi, that's exactly. Yeah. Ezequiel Lavezzi, exactly. He played with Cavani. Man, he put us to the absolute sword, and we were meant to try and sign him that following season. I remember that. Obviously, it didn't materialize, but I remember that. And then you were thinking, and it was like, when you look at the players that you had back then. Let's do this as a little fun thing, actually. When you look at the players that stepped up in that game that brought us to the semi-final. Obviously Branislav in the home game, 4-1, man. Branislav.
Yeah.
JT.
What a goal.
Fucking Drogba.
Lamps.
Oh.
The old guard got us through, man.
Yeah, and then obviously Barcelona, JT gets sent off. We're not, I mean, people are going to be, well, we're actually getting, do you know what we're doing here? We're actually getting fans ready. This is the right thing to do. We're actually getting fans ready for tomorrow. We're getting fans ready for tomorrow. And like JT getting sent off. Oh my God, you're thinking, shit, this is it. And then Lampard hits that sliced through ball to Ramirez, and you're going, what's gonna happen here? Oh my God. Only a Brazilian can do that.
Yeah.
Only a Brazilian can do that. Victor Valdez, would you like salt and vinegar with that chip, my friend?
Because I remember when Iniesta scored the goal to put them 2-0 up, we were all sitting there. I think even the most diehard Chelsea fan, the most optimistic, sat there and was like, right.
Oh, I buried my heart, just sank into my...
Yeah, because I remember as well, Gary Neville's commentary. He's like, Barcelona, they smell blood in the water. The fans know what's going to happen here. And then even the second half, like when Messi hit the crossbar with the penalty, you're sitting going, I think this is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was written in the stars.
Of course. And, Torres going around Valdez, a la Chilwell going around the Porto goalkeeper this season.
Oh, man, you called that one out to me, and that brought an absolute smile to my face, because I've always been pro Torres when he came to Chelsea. And
just a quick shout out to Torres. I had a conversation with a United fan the other day saying Torres was a flop. That goal was worth 50 million alone.
Well, the next season he scored, I believe, 25 goals in all competitions.
Yeah, one was the Europa League.
Yeah, plus the Europa League. So, I mean...
and by the way, if we mentioned the Europa League as well, I know we might have one or two wrestling fans that watch this. You always remember Chris Jericho, the undisputed champion, WCW, WF champion at one time. Yep. We won the Champions League, and then we won the Europa League the next season. So for 10 days, folks, 10 days until that Champions League final, we were the one and the only undisputed champions of Europe. We held both titles at the one time. If you looked up Wikipedia at the time, Champions League champions Chelsea, Europa League champions Chelsea. No other team has held that.
And if Chelsea were a professional wrestler, it would be Chris Jericho, the underdog. That's a great
new managers all the time.
That's a great one. I love that. Yeah, we are the Chris Jericho of football. I love it.
And let's hope by tomorrow we are in fact les champions of Europe.
But we are going to be the maskless ones,
Absolutely. But in terms of the final, because we talked about 2012, and like it has vibes. I'm seeing all these different bits of history. Like, oh, this happened in 2012. This happened in 2012. That happened in 2012. So. A big thing for me, and I said this to you the other day.
It's like the 11-11 thing, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But a big thing for me for this final, and I mentioned to you the other day, the fact that we have top four already takes a lot of pressure off these young boys.
Yeah. Yeah. This is another game now. This is just another game. I mean, back then we had our veterans fighting for that Champions League spot, and Drogba wanting to leave in the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This one now, as you say, we can go into this as just another game, knowing that we've had City's number for the last two games. And also seeing Pep Guardiola in his press conference being ridiculously overconfident. Like, I appreciated Guardiola on the final day, crying for Aguero, but then he became the absolute prick he was, and that we all know he is again in the press conference, as if like, this is a done deal. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch the smile getting taken off his face personally.
As we remember from his Barcelona days, who was the one team he always hated facing as Barcelona manager?
And who was it was him, man. Pep has always had this, facade and this ability to pretend that he's this, super guy and all that, But I mean, he's one of the biggest crybabies I've ever seen in management.
Yeah.
A hell of a manager, don't get me wrong, hell of a coach. I'm not saying that. But let's take away this little cotton wool that we put with Pep, because if Pep was managing Chelsea and acting that way, he would be called out.
And as well as that, we also, we're going into the final as the underdogs, which we are perfectly happy to go in as the underdogs. We were the underdogs for the entire 2012 campaign.
I love
it.
And
this was shades of it, because you remember the 2012 campaign. Last 16 against Napoli. Oh, you won't beat them. Quarters against Benfica. Well, they're not that easy. Semis against Barcelona. Oh, you won't beat them. Final against Munich. No, you're not beating them. If you look at this season, last 16 against Atletico, you're not beating them. Quarterfinals against Porto, they could be tricky.
Oh, they beat you, mate.
Yeah, semis against Real, you're not beating them. Now City in the final. Oh no, City will beat you. So exact same. I'm hearing the exact same things.
I've noticed something though. Any football fan I talk to that isn't a Liverpool fan, and some Liverpool fans, in fairness, are saying it, that they think Chelsea has Man City's number.
I hope so, man. I hope so, because
I think this is a lot more of an even matchup than people give it credit for. I think in terms of defense, we are matched up. I think in terms of clinical ability to be guaranteed a one-on-one who's going to score, I think City have us on that one, because Mason Mount's finishing has been fucking absolutely piss poor the last 10 games. Oh my God. And then he smiles about it. And you're like, you won't be smiling at the end of the game when that missed chance probably costs us.
I think we're fairly evenly matched. I think that people are playing it too much to our last few games. I think if you look at the losses against Arsenal, Leicester and Villa, people are focusing on that. It's amazing how quickly Tuchel's work is forgotten leading up to these games.
Yeah, but look, that's just the media, and it's also some of the fickle Chelsea fan base as well. Because good Lord knows, just go on Twitter and see how fickle some of the Chelsea fan base is. It's absolutely shocking.
Now, I admitted that I said to you at one point that had we, lost the FA Cup final, not gotten top four, and lost the Champions League final, that was a very big one to kind of try and come back from. But, we lost the FA Cup final, it wasn't our day. We made top four, which in my opinion was more important than winning the FA Cup. And now we go into this going, you know what, we can go in Champions League final. We have the Champions League in the bag already. Go in and just put it all out there. Don't come back with any regrets.
But it wouldn't have been Tuchel's fault if that had happened either, because again, he's a coach that came in at the tail end of the season and shows what can be done with some of these young players. But it would have probably sealed the fate, I would say, for a lot of the players like Jorginho and probably Azpilicueta, players like that you would say, you're meant to be our leaders. You've actually let our club down. Maybe it's time to move on. Whereas now I think you're going, okay, couple of bad games, couple of slip-ups, right, we move on. And I think this is where we're at right now. It's Champions League final time, baby.
Yeah, and Tuchel, I've loved Tuchel in his press conference now earlier in the week, where he said, look, I've said to the players, my loss with PSG here last year, I'm not using this as motivation. He says, I'm giving them a few days off until Wednesday. And he said, look, take a few days off, relax. We'll come back training. We'll treat this as a game, and then we'll go together, and we're going to go and give it all we have. And I'm like, that's all you need to hear, especially with these lads that are so young. Like, you got to remember, the likes of Mason Mount, the likes of Timo Werner, the likes of Kai Havertz, like, they're between 20 to 24 years old. Pulisic, 21 years old. So, like, I mean, it's going to be, I can't believe that this is tomorrow. Like, it's just the Champions. It's like Christmas Eve. It's literally like Christmas Eve.
I'm going to be a different person tomorrow. I've decided that I booked myself and ourselves into the zoo for 11:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So that we can go and see the animals, get some food, try and keep my mind off, because I couldn't sit around the house for that whole day waiting for that to happen, because
Yeah, man. Like that's
I'd be
why.
a nervous wreck, and I'd probably be drunk. But
yeah, like I play for a softball team. I got softball practice tomorrow. Like I have to do something just to keep my mind occupied because I'm gonna wake up and be like, okay, it's final day. Like this is the be all and end all. This is what we've been waiting for.
It's scary, man, and I'm gonna be like nervous. If I don't make episode 2, find a suitable replacement. Find a suitable replacement.
I suppose now to close off the episode, because I think we're coming to the end. I think the best thing to do is what's the starting 11?
There we go. Right, we'll start with we'll do it one by one, and we'll go in turn. Goalkeeper, I think Mendy's going to start, even if he's got a broken spine. I think he's going to start.
Yeah, Mendy is in goal. Yeah, 100%.
And I think there's a little bit of kayfabe going on there with Tuchel as well. To be fair, I think he's keeping them guessing. I think Tuchel starts. Right wing back, for me, it's got to be Reece James.
Yeah, I agree.
Right centre back, come on,
Captain Dave.
Yeah. Thiago Silva.
Yeah.
Every day of the week, and of course Antonio Rudiger, and then Chilwell.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Another player, by the way, Chilwell, another player that has come on leaps and bounds for the time that he spent out of the team with Tuchel. I mean, Tuchel, I think, is master. I think his attacking ability, Ben Chilwell, at the moment is probably one of the best attacking left backs on the planet.
I agree.
And I think that's a Tuchel project that he is absolutely getting right. Let's look at the midfield pivot. This is the difficult one.
Yeah, it's I'll let you go first with it then.
Well,
this is a difficult one.
Okay, so if I'm reading between the lines and certain things, the fact that he brought Kovacic with him on the presser, I'm thinking, right, because Kovacic, people would say he's made a couple of mistakes in the last game. I think more so, I think referees haven't seen the fucking fouls that have been on him in the last couple of games too, for the goals that we've conceded. But, is he thinking a pivot of Kante and Kovacic? Like, is he thinking Jorginho was kind of messed up a few times? I don't know. What's he telling us?
I mean, you have to play Kante if he's fit. There's no two ways around that. And it's
he said that, didn't he? He said that.
Yeah. The Kante and Kovacic pivot, for me, on paper, is our best pivot. But for some reason, Jorginho has just worked so well with both of them in that pivot
because he sits.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting one in the sense that you'd sit and you think to yourself, Kante and Kovacic, in my opinion, are our best two midfielders in those positions. But they haven't played together as much as, Jorginho and a Kovacic, or a Jorginho or a Kante, who were outstanding against Real Madrid. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, I think
I'm going with Kante and Jorginho, though. I am.
Okay. I will play devil's advocate and go with Kante and Kovacic.
Okay.
Because I do think on paper they're the best, especially against that midfield trio that City have of Gundogan, De Bruyne, if he plays in midfield, and Rodri. But I'm going to just, cop out and say I trust Tuchel whatever he picks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Oh, no, I'm 100% with you on that. Like, I will, even if we lose 10-0, I'll back the manager.
Okay, and in terms of, I'll go first this time for the front three.
Yeah.
I'll go with, what I think he's going to go with. I think it'll be a front three of Pulisic, Mount, and Byrne.
Yeah. That would be the right call, I think. I think Timo has got us there as well. I mean, look at his assists, the goal against Real Madrid. I mean, that's one of the most well-deserved tap-in headers I've seen all season for a player.
Yeah.
And we were texting at the time, and you were panicking. And I said, fucking trust it. Werner is scoring the first goal.
You did, to be fair.
And I remember you texted me, and you were like, motherfucker, I'm so glad to be wrong.
And if I could hold my hands up and say, at the risk of sounding too negative, I thought he was going to miss. Even though he was there, I was like, please don't miss.
I plead the fifth on that one. But when I saw the ball hit the net, I was very, very convinced. Although I wasn't convinced, I was like, they're going to call him offside, even though he was in the net.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think that's the most I think that's what he's going to go for too. We don't know about the midfield, but I think 9 out of those 11 players are nailed on.
Yeah, I think so. I think when I'm looking at impact subs, I thought personally the final day of the season, Kai Havertz changed the whole dynamic of the game when he came on. And I mean, that's the first game where we've really seen Kai Havertz being physical. I mean, that impact that he had with the
Yes.
keeper
Yes.
as well. He put his whole frame in that box and got involved there. So I mean, that's something that he can bring off the bench. I mean, look, we have Giroud there. I mean, Giroud could easily be our Drogba hero in this game.
Look,
Let's not fool ourselves.
and I've spoken on the Dynamo Podcast Network about my feelings toward Olivier Giroud. I am in love with that man. I don't
I'm
know
all
what it
in,
is.
man.
I just love him.
There's
And
a
if
reason I
Giroud,
fade the beard. And I
if
can never quite,
Giroud,
I can never quite get the Giroud look. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just
if
not as sexy.
if Giroud scores the winner in the Champions League final,
I'll tattoo.
I think I will get a tattoo of Giroud somewhere on my body.
Let's both do it. All right. Let's make this disclaimer now. Right. This is we will actually do it, and we will show it on the show. Now we're not saying we're not getting his portrait. I don't know. Are we getting portrait? I don't know. I think more so
I
maybe
don't know.
Ollie 18 or something like that. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I will get a tattoo of Olivier Giroud somewhere on my body
Yeah, me too.
if he scores the Champions League final winner, because just that man just deserves it. He's been such a good. And I was at the game. We lost 3-0 to Bournemouth on the night, unfortunately. But I was at the game when we signed him, and he came out and held the jersey up. And I sat there and says, "I'm so happy we signed him."
Me too. Me too. And that
I
was
think I think
Conte's
Giroud is
time
one of the most underrated strikers I've ever seen.
ever, without a shadow of a doubt.
Ever.
I love the guy.
Like,
And what a
second top
professional.
scorer in France. Second top scorer in France's history. And if you look at a highlight reel of his goals, you think he was the best player of all time.
Is he getting the call up to France anyway? Yeah.
I think he will. Like, they're making a lot of fuss about Benzema getting called up, which, he has had a great season. But Giroud's their second top goal scorer of all time. He's only a few goals behind Henry.
And Deschamps knows what he gets out of him.
Yeah.
Look, this is super exciting. I mean, we could sit all day here talking about scenarios and who we bring off the bench and what we do and what we don't do. But I think the fact of the matter is, as Chelsea fans, we are super, super stoked. We're playing for this once again. We're going to be super nervous.
We are.
There is no doubt about that. I'm sure we're going to be texting each other during the game, having high moments and low moments and giving out here and there. But isn't this why we love football, guys? We are in the Champions League final against the best team in England.
I think I said to you after the game at the weekend after Villa, when we had lost to Villa but Spurs had beaten Leicester, I think I said to you, I love and hate football so much.
Oh, I hate what it does to my heart, because sometimes it nearly gives me a heart attack. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Absolutely. And I think, speaking of not changing it for the world, I'm going to give a little shout out to City here. I think it is very befitting that the Champions League final is between the two clubs that were the ones that left the Super League first.
Yeah.
I think it's very befitting.
So. And
the fact that we beat the stuffing out of Florentino Perez's team at the semi-final as well.
Yeah, I think it was that was a good shot for that was a good shot for the crime against what they wanted to do. So
man.
It's about time that the FA step up now and show that football is not corrupt as well next season. Because there's been too much of that FA choosing who they want and who they don't want and telling referees, what to give. And VAR needs to be more transparent. I think there needs to be names with who's sitting in those towers calling these shots, and they need to come out and explain in video footage and explain why these penalties aren't given and why they're given in other scenarios, and stop putting the onus on managers to have to come out looking bitter and then getting fined by the FA when they're quite clearly frustrated. FA, step up, or you're just as fucking corrupt as the Super League, and that goes for UEFA too.
I agree. Let's hope though we're not talking about VAR and referees after Saturday.
Let's hope not. But look, for the first episode of the Chelsea Roar, this has been phenomenal. We have been your hosts, Mr. Ian the Dynamo Kelly and Alex Byrne, and catch us, of course, on the Dynamo Podcast Network. This is the first episode of many. Whatever you like listening to, we have got it on the Dynamo Podcast Network. We've got horror shows, we've got wrestling shows, we've got football, we've got retro movie entertainment for you and retrotainment. We've got everything you need. Please like, subscribe, smash the bell notification button, and do yourself a favor, share and tell all your friends about it too, because we ain't going anywhere. But until next week, blue is the color, football is the game, and tomorrow, Chelsea, once again, champions of Europe.
We will all be together, and winning will be our aim.
Keep the faith.
Come on,
Dynamo
Chelsea.
over and out.